Mr. H.N. Srinivas, Senior Vice President, Human Resources. Mr. H.N. Srinivas is a powerhouse of experience, knowledge and success in the field of human resources. He has to his credit an advanced management program, Cornell University, and an HRD facilitators program on change management at National Training Laboratory, Washington, D.C. He has over 30 years of understanding of this field. He has been associated with the Taj Group for 18 years and has greatly contributed to it with respect to human resources, learning and development, and business excellence functions. He also headed the HR function in BPL and thereafter in Tata Tea, and has been Director Human Resources with Hewlett-Packard Global Delivery India Center, an authority on the subject of management. We thank Mr. Srinivas for being with us today.
Dear professional colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed an honor to be sharing my thoughts with such an august and erudite audience and a number of students whom I see here. And I thank Indore Management Association for this privilege and opportunity given to me. I was raptly listening to the previous session where Suhas and the other two speakers were talking about leadership. I think I'll be taking you through a slightly different kind of journey of what sustains leadership. I represent an organization which is 108-year-old. It was founded by Mr. Jamshedji Tata. I'm sure all of you know the founder of the Tata Group was Mr. Jamshedji Tata. And it has gone through various phases of success and failures, and today has emerged as the most powerful Asian hospitality brand and one of the very strong hotel brands, luxury hotel brands in the world. As I was driving from the airport, one of the organizers who accompanied me was asking me, Tatas have such diverse companies, from steel, motors, software, chemicals, hotels, services, retail, and in some way it goes against the core competency theory. How do you ensure what is it that works for Tatas which makes all these companies shine and successful? So I was reflecting. I remembered some of the words of our founder, Ms. Jamshedji Tata, and also later on Ms. Jadi Tata, and the current chairman, Mr. Ratan Tata. It's all about leadership with trust. In organizations, we should learn the most difficult art of trusting people, the right set of people, repose enormous trust and empower them. And number two, there should be an uncompromising, strong foundation of certain core values, human values. And under any circumstances, we should not violate those values. Come what may, whatever is the temptation. Number two. And number three, of course, it's more management oriented, proper technology, processes and a review structure. So if these fundamentals are put in place, organizations sustain through their journey of ups and downs and they move on. I'm always remembered of what the former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, I understand that he addressed the gathering. He writes in his book, India 2020, where he has dreamt that this country is going to become an economic superpower by 2020, and the journey has begun, the momentum has been picked up, and nobody can stop this. I know there is so much of chaos and contradiction within the nation, but with all this, an order is going to emerge where we will be right there, up where we always belonged throughout history as the number one nation. And this superpower economic giant India, we can see the stirrings of its emergence, not so much in large cities like Bombay and Delhi, or even Bangalore and Chennai. This India is rising in smaller towns. This India is rising from the homes of the poor, from the homes of farmers and fishermen. When I interview students in a school and a college, and when they relate their story to me, that their father is a farmer, he is a petty shopkeeper, and now the son has become an engineer. He is working in a software service company, a multinational company. So, it's very inspiring to read him, and that emergence we can see in every step and every stage. And I would say Tata's is an organization with its huge diversity in product portfolio, in the services that we offer, footprints. 65% of all the revenues of Tata Group companies come from outside of India today. 65% of revenues of the Tata Group come from outside of India. It has become a truly global company with huge multinational footprints. Now, what has saved us all through, what has acted as an anchor sheet and foundation of strength for Tata Group, I will once again repeat, is the fundamental human values that Tatas have uncompromisingly practiced. And I will narrate this through a true life incident. A disaster that we went through on 26/11, I'm sure all of you are aware, and the entire nation was watching it on the television. And it was an unforeseen, unwarranted, heinous, cowardly attack on innocent people. At 9:45, these terrorists holding automatic machine guns rushed into the hotel lobby. They indiscreetly opened fire, killing people, children, women, men, guests, whoever was there. And as a demonstration of leadership, these are live situations and facts which I will be sharing with you. At 10 o'clock, the chairman of the Tata Group, Mr. Ratan Tata, and the vice chairman, they both arrived, Mr. Krishna Kumar, at 10 o'clock, and they wanted to barge into the hotel. And their reason was, when there are thousands of guests who are stuck in the hotel, there are so many employees, we can't be standing outside and watching this. We want to be with them. They were prevented. By then police had appeared on the stage. They were prevented by the police. But the vice chairman still attempted to push himself, and he almost entered inside, and he narrowly escaped a bullet injury because the terrorists were shooting bullets. And one of the drivers who noticed him held him like holding a small child, dragged him and took him up to the Gateway of India and dropped him there, and fell at his feet and said, "Saab, aap andar mat jao." Now, we reached there immediately at a very short notice. We were not allowed inside. We are standing near the Gateway of India, watching this horrible, most painful spectacle of fire gushing out of several floors and rooms, gunshot sounds, RDX blast sounds inside the hotel, without having a clue what is the extent of damage and calamity that has been inflicted, for absolutely no reason, without any alarm. So at about 12 o'clock, the Marine Commandos arrived, and the NSG group arrived in the morning at about 8 o'clock, but 8:30 onwards, the bodies started coming out. They were pulling out the bodies. We were rushing the bodies to the hospital. Some we could rescue, some were pronounced dead. And hospital ICUs were kept ready in about 3-4 hospitals, and immediate surgery, immediate attention was paid to all these bodies, and many of them we could rescue. Many we could save, a number of them. And it was a most painful, horrible, drama that was going on for 2 nights. We were not allowed to get inside. On the Saturday morning, that is on 29th morning, we were allowed to get inside. The NSG announced that the action is over, we have killed all the terrorists, and we entered the lobby and the whole place was looking like a ravaged battlefield. And the entire press was hovering around. And Mr. Tata made his first press conference, which was live telecast in all the channels. I think the statement he made was, these people have hurt us, but they can't beat us down. He was referring to the nation. It's a fact they have hurt us, but they can't beat us down. The spirit of Indian people will reassert itself in full measure, and he also announced, I want to open this hotel once again back to the public within the next 3 weeks, and we did. So how did we address the human side of the whole situation? Immediately we got in touch with all the 1,600 employees of the hotel on telephones, through contacts, one full day. And we said we should communicate to them because they're all gathering near the hotel in the back areas, front areas. It was all taken over by the police and the NSG and army. It is an army action. And guests were, whoever was there were all vacated. They were all very anxious. They didn't know what's going to happen to them, their lives, their careers. And another statement, the second statement the chairman made was all 1,600 employees who were on the rolls of the company. That night and that shift there were about 600 people, but 1,600 employees on the rolls of the company of that hotel. All of them, regardless of whether they are temporary, casuals, trainees, apprentices, even if they have joined 2 days before as a banquet casual, every one of them will come back to work and they will be taken back. There will not be any job losses. He also told us that if you are not able to call all of them back because the hotel is undergoing renovation, you will be depositing their monthly paycheck in their bank accounts on the first day of every month. Let it take 1 year, 1.5 years, 2 years, if some of them have moved to their native towns, regardless. Ascertain their bank accounts, deposit their paycheck on the first of the month. Now, this is what I'm reiterating, practicing human values. We got in touch with them and I brought some counselors from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, psychiatric social workers, a team of 20 of them. We organized some kind of a large-scale dialogue and communication with employees in groups of 300. We did not have a hall. I hired a hall from Holy Home School, which is right adjoining the hotel, just across the road. And we invited all these people and we told them that yes, what has happened is very unfortunate. And let me assure you, all of you will come back and work. Your paycheck is protected, your jobs and salaries protected. We'll take care of your families, your children, their education. Nothing will be disturbed. Let us all be together. Let us fight this kind of a heinous criminal act, the horrendous attack on innocent people that they have unleashed. Let us fight this and put the nation's flag high and also the company's flag on the hotel, and let us open it as fast as we can. Let us all be together at the time of this kind of crisis. So employees got inspired. They participated in the rehabilitation activities. We set up about 7 rehabilitation centers in suburban Mumbai, Andheri, Chembur, Baikula, in various places, some 7 rehabilitation centers, employee relief centers, and we put a psychiatric social worker, we put 2 HR managers in these centers. We collected all the addresses of the contiguous areas and insisted that the HR manager should visit them, get their parents, wife and children to this relief center, and we ran some counseling sessions, some kind of stress relief, trauma relief sessions in these employee relief centers for almost 6 months. Immediately it was established It was established within 3-4 days of this incident in all these centers. Mr. Tata insisted on meeting the widows and the dependent families of the deceased employees. There were 12 employees who were killed in this attack, 12 of our own employees. And we flew them from different parts of the country. In some cases, they wanted to come in large numbers, their brothers and sisters, because they have lost an important member of the family in an unfortunate incident like this. All of them wanted to come. We said, we will, as many as you want to come. We booked accommodation for them in one of our hotels nearby, President Hotel in Bombay. And Mr. Tata and Mr. Krishna Kumar, chairman and vice chairman, they walk in at about 8 o'clock to meet up with each of these families, and they spent about 45 minutes with each of these families. And these meetings went on till about 2 in the night, and Mr. Chairman himself, Tata himself, was reassuring them, extending them any help, any support you require. See, what has happened is most unfortunate. Whatever you require, you please tell us, we are with you. You are a part of our family. The only thing I can't do is to bring back that great hero into life. Anything else you require, we are here to look after you. I had worked out some kind of a settlement package for the deceased dependents, families. I was holding it in my hand, expecting that any minute you will ask me, what are we doing? How are we, looking after these families? In that, I had put about 7 things, one after the other. Because we are all emotionally shaken, running from one funeral to another, one mortuary to another mortuary, cremating bodies, consoling the families of the deceased employees, deceased guests. We are stuck in this 24/7 for almost 1 month. So I had put this together in that mental framework. I had suggested that for the lowest level employee who was a casual who was killed, an upfront settlement of something like 36 lakhs. And for the senior most employee who was a chef who was killed, about 81 lakhs cash upfront as death relief benefit and compensation. Number 1. Number 2, I had suggested that we should underwrite the last drawn salary of this employee who has laid down his life in this terror attack, underwrite that salary for the dependent widow or the mother for the rest of their lives. Whatever salary he is getting, in the case of the chef, he was getting a salary of 2 lakhs. As long as his wife is alive and the son is alive, they will get this 2 lakhs every month. The paycheck will go to them. Number 2. And number 3, if company has provided them some houses, that will be permanently given to them. As long as they want, they can stay in these houses. Number 4, I had suggested we should take a medical cover for the entire family for life. For life. Dependents, wife, children, mother, a medical cover. Number 6, if there are children who could be employed, immediately we will take them on duty, train them and provide employment. Number 7, a separate fund will be dedicated for the education of children for such as those families where the children are still in school and college. And their entire education expenses, including their higher studies, if they get admission in international universities, up till the age of 25, will be met separately, apart from whatever I have said, separately by the company. And number 7, we had appointed a counselor, a team of counselors who will visit them once in a month to check in case they require any further help and support. So I had put this entire thing together and I was holding it with me, and it was a very emotionally disturbing kind of an interaction because they had lost their breadwinner and they were coming in crying. One interaction I can never forget all my life, when I could see tears in the eyes of everybody who was sitting there, my chairman, my vice chairman, and all of us. Here walks in the wife of one Thomas. a 36-year-old lady with her two children, a 16-year-old son and a 12-year-old son who lost their father, who was a waiter in one of the restaurants just a few days back. And we had flown the mother of the employee, the deceased employee from Kerala, and there were a team of 5 of them. They came, they broke down, they were crying. But the lady says, "Sir, I am not unhappy, I am happy." So I was curiously looking at her, what is she trying to say? My husband has laid down his life like a hero. Do you know, sir, he has saved the lives of 50 to 60 people in that restaurant? Then when we verified the accurate facts, this Thomas Varghese, who was a waiter in Wasabi restaurant, when the terrorists entered and they were throwing RDX in each of these restaurants, all along the galley, they expected the guests to come running out because it is a busy time. 10 o'clock in the night is when restaurants are all packed. He expected in that chaos, guests will come out. These terrorists were looking for that, and they could kill them indiscreetly. So they go to this restaurant and throw RDX, it catches fire, and here is a head waiter, he is the senior most person there, the restaurant manager had gone for a break. He immediately commands his troops, he asks his 12 other waiters to form a cordon and get all the guests rescued through the staircase, spiral staircase, fire staircase at the rear end of the restaurant through the kitchen. Risking his own life, they may come back and shoot him. He says, that's all we can do. Let's form a cordon and let us rescue all the guests. 55 guests he rescues. Standing in the fire. If you throw RDX, it catches virulent fire. It's very inflammable. And then, and they were all rushing through that spiral staircase. And after that, it's about 30 seconds. After that, he says, all of you go through the spiral staircase, I will be the last to go. And he manages to send all the employees through the staircase. As he is about to go and climb down, the terrorists come back. One of them comes back and shoots at him and he kills him, which was seen by his colleagues from the bottom of the staircase, bullets entering his body and he's falling down. So the guests whom he rescued, the employees whom he rescued, they go running at 2:30 or 3 in the morning, looking for his family, looking for his house. Some of them were foreigners. We need to express our gratitude for his family. He has laid down his life, but he has rescued all of us. They met his wife and they narrated the story. This is what happened. He rescued all of us and he laid down his life. And this woman said, my husband has laid down his life like a hero, rescuing the lives of so many people. He has demonstrated unbelievable kind of devotion to his duty. He has practiced that basic value. And all that we need to do is to put up his photograph in our living room. If my children can grow up with these values in their life, all that I expect is only that. How much they earn, what position they hold, whether they get promotions, all this is not important. If they practice this fundamental value, duty, devotion to duty and service, that's all we want, sir. And she broke down. And she said, I never knew that I lived with such a great man for 20 years. So some of us naturally couldn't hold our tears. She said, I don't want any help and support from, see, we have been lower middle class people, we'll continue to live like that, and we will find some meaning for our lives. But the fact, sir, you have called all of us and you want to meet us, has touched us. So we are proud of him. These people have raised the bar of service to a completely different level, a world-class, world-beating level. How are they so inspired to lay down their own lives rescuing guests? Look at their devotion to duty. This company belongs to them and not any one of us sitting here. It is their company. Now, what have we done for them? Then I had that statement, as I mentioned to you. I was holding it in my hand, and then I handed it over to him. He goes through the statement, no reaction for 1 minute, and then he looks at me and asks me, this is all fine, I think this we have to do, this is something very basic. Can we do something more than this? I listed the kind of support we had decided to provide. Upfront cash benefit, death compensation, salary to be given as a pension, medical relief, children's education. He said, can we do something more? This company is their company. They are all a part of our family from today. The next day morning was the memorial. In the memorial, he first insisted, let us play the national anthem. It is just not one company, one Taj or Tata's. It's an attempted attack against the nation. So we played the national anthem, stood in attention. And then the memorial function was conducted where we paid homage and tribute to all the people who had laid down their lives. It didn't stop here. Suddenly, after 4 or 5 days, he asked me, have we done something for all the terror victims? Then I said, sir, I explained what we're doing. He said, no, I'm not talking about the employees of Taj and the people who are affected by the terror attack in the hotel. I know we have done a good job for the injured employees and we are running counseling centers. I'm aware of all that. But what about people who are affected by the terror attack in Chhatrapati Shivaji Station, Boribandar, Kama Hospital, Leopold Cafe? Frankly, I had not thought of it. Then he said, no, we need to immediately take on this. They're all also our brothers and sisters, and some of them may be very vulnerable from marginal families. So a trust was set up and money flew into the trust. Once again, I took the help of Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I met Dr. Parashuraman. He put a team of counselors and psychiatric social workers. And we gathered the addresses of all these terror victims from the collector of Mumbai those days, Mrs. Kundan. She was very helpful and supportive. About 380 families were affected by the terror attack, which includes both widows of the deceased and injured, families of the injured. We took all these addresses, we distributed, classified them into 6 zones. For each of these zones, I sent a team of counselors and some of our managers went to do what's called a need assessment survey. The need assessment survey was intended, it was designed by the students of TISS and also professors. The objective was to understand their social status, their financial status, their economic status, employment status, number of children, dependents. So a 3-4 page questionnaire was constructed and the filled up questionnaires were coming to Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Every day evening we would sit there, tabulate, and for each family we scoped what is to be done, what support the trust can provide. And I'll just brief you some of the things we're doing. For about 140 families from marginal classes of society, we are providing a monthly subsistence. These are all outside of Taj. These are the public. For 140 families, we are giving a subsistence allowance every month. Even now it's continuing, of 10,000 rupees every month. Some of them did not even have bank accounts. We went to interior places like Dharavi slums and Ganesh Nagar slums, Muhammad Ali Road. To identify the addresses itself took a long time. When we go there, when the volunteers go there, the family is not there. They were gone to their native place. Then we had to go again and again. It took almost a month or month and a half for us to get the complete data. We analyzed it. Then for 140 to 150 families, we are paying a subsistence allowance. And we have put separate money in the schools. We identify how many children have dropped out of schools. There are about 65 to 70 children who have dropped out of schools, not being able to bear this trauma, anxiety because the father is dead. And they are from a poor family and 5, 6 children. The wife doesn't know what to do. So we met up with the school authorities in these cases and deposited money in the schools, in all these schools, some 27 schools in Bombay, to support the tuition fee, their uniforms, their transportation. And we are personally taking care of them. Our counselors are visiting these children, their families on a regular basis to ensure that their education stabilizes. We trained about 70 dependents of these terror victims in vocational training and hospitality skills in our Taj Lands End for 6 months, and all these 70 people have been given jobs, most of them in Taj hotels and some of them in other Tata companies, all 70. There was this lady, one Shabira Khan, I still remember her name, and she had 5 children. She lost her husband, was selling fish in the fish market, earning some 3,000-4,000 rupees. And now we put her through this skills training. She is working as a housekeeper in Taj Lands End. There was this old man who was writhing in pain in Dharavi slums, interior slums. His house is a 6 feet by 4 feet kind of a tenement. He was lying on a couch. The only person who was accompanying him was his 5-year-old granddaughter. And he was in pain. He was continuously crying, not being able to bear the pain. He had 2-3 bullets in his body. He was rushed to the hospital, Bombay Hospital or some other hospital, JJ Hospital. They had removed 2 bullets, and some bullet, a part of the bullet was still in his body, and he had no money to go through the complete treatment. And we identified him, we rushed him back to the hospital, spent some 30-40 lakhs on his complete surgery. He was in the hospital for 2 months, and he was selling pav bhaji on a cart in the slums. We gave him a fresh cart. We are giving him a subsistence allowance of 5,000 rupees. Plus we bought a brand new cart, and he is now back on his feet. In the meantime, his granddaughter, we had put her in a baby care center. We looked after her. Number of such stories. We are in touch with all these 250 families and extending support, relief and rehabilitation. So when this is presented to the senior leadership, the leadership feels contented. They say, okay, can we do something more for them? Keep in touch with them. So the trust has been set up, which is primarily meant for victims of disaster. It could be fire, it could be earthquake, it could be anything. And the money is kind of gathering in size. Subsequently, we had set up a community kitchen when floods happened in Bihar. There were landslides in Leh. And we had sent a team from our trust who went and who did some rehabilitation work in Leh. About 10 of these terror victims, dependents, we helped them to set up their own enterprise by microfinance support. About 15 of them were provided medical attention by getting them admitted in hospitals. So, when I talk about leadership, what sustains an organization is this kind of a community connect. Engage with your employees, all of us know. Engage with your customers, yes, it definitely makes business sense. Without that, business can't happen. Engage with communities in meaningful ways. Contribution is the name of the game. That reminds me of a famous quote of Albert Einstein, the great scientist. 100 times a day I remind myself that my inner and outer life is made of contributions by a large number of people, some of whom are alive and some are dead. And I should exert myself. So I should exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received and I am receiving. You will be a preferred product. Strategic partners will be willing to do business with you. And that is how the company moves on. We are expanding at the rate of 10-15 hotels every year, not only in India but in key regions of the world. We have 100 hotels. Our ambition in the next 4 to 5 years is to become a 250 hotel company with about 55,000 employees. We have about 25,000 people. So it is this foundation that has kept us going. We have faced the trauma, we have faced the disaster, and we have put our head high, and we have come back with a bang, and we'll continue to grow, we'll continue to expand, and continue to care for the people in a manner I explained to you thus far. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. I'm sure we all are quite awestruck and mesmerized by the philosophy and the culture of the Tata Group. Just the way one of your group company writes, we also make steel. I'm sure after what Taj Group of Hotels has done for the 2611 victims, you also can write, we also take care of guests. I would now invite some questions which people have from you. This is from Kanak Gupta, Jaipuria Institute of Management. There is a project by the Tatas by the name of Sparsh. How can we, the non-Tata folks, get involved in Project Sparsh?
If you're referring to the community development work we're doing in some of the interior tribal regions in Madhya Pradesh, if that is the project you're referring to, you're most welcome to participate. You can, if you give me the details, I'll send you the complete project details and where you can come in and in what way you can take part. It will be clear in that. We have an engagement with the tribal families in Madhya Pradesh, in Kana, in Bandhavgarh and near Jabalpur, Pench, in some of those places. Thank you.
One more question. I appreciate the support the Tatas have done for the employees and the corporate CSR they have shown. But what action have you taken to protect your hotels from such further disasters?
Good question. See, hospitality and that's five-star luxury hotels and tight security traditionally did not go hand in hand. We are an organization, we welcome our guests with ease and we extend the best of courtesy and frisking them, checking them and doing too much of security. That was not a tradition across the world. It never happened in India, it never happened in any part of the world, in Europe, United States. Though we had taken precautions 2005 onwards, when some alerts were being given to us, some security precautions were being taken. But if two trained commando terrorists holding automatic machine guns open fire and just barge into the lobby, any kind of security that you provide at that level, I don't think would have been able to cope with it. But now what we have done, we have significantly stepped up the security. We have hired the best security and intelligence agency of the world, the best agency of the world. We have spent close to 100 crores in providing the best security and intelligence shield. It not only, some of them is visible, some of them are visible, some of them are not even visible. So we have installed all those electronic equipments. We have trained something like 5,000 of our security personnel in this commando training. They went to Germany, they went to Israel. We had sent them to several countries. And most comprehensive training has been given to them. And we have tightened at every step the security for the guests as well as employees.
May I now request Mr. S.S. Bhatia from Bhatia International to please present a memento to Mr. Srinivas. Thank you, Mr. Bhatia. Thank you, Mr. Srinivas, for being with us here today and inspiring us all with the fascinating work you and your company and your group has done. Now, I request all of you to join us for lunch, and at 2:30 sharp, we will start the next session, post-lunch session. So request everybody to be in their seats by 2:30. Thank you.